Diane, I got something real important to tell you.
That's great!
No, it's not that great.
Why?
I shrunk the kids.
Now I have a question for you. Do you remember that time that Disney turned a quiet suburban backyard into the most dangerous jungle of the late 80s? In 1989, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids took a simple what-if premise. A distracted inventor accidentally miniaturizes his own children and spun it into a full-scale survival adventure. Directed by Johnston and starring Rick Moranis, Marcia Strassman, Matt Frewer, and 4 kids who somehow survived giant ants, scorpions, sprinklers, and cereal bowls, the movie blended sci-fi, comedy, and genuine peril in a way family films rarely attempted at the time. On the surface, it was wholesome chaos, but underneath was one of the most ambitious practical effects productions of its era, loaded with bizarre production choices, near disasters, studio meddling, and creative swings that had no business working, but absolutely did. Now, if you're a fan of deep dives into the movies you grew up with, hit that subscribe button and drop a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, let's fire up the shrink ray, dodge the scorpion, and count down 15 weird facts about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Number 15, the movie was originally called Teeny Weenies. Now, before this became one of Disney's smartest family hits, the working title was Teeny Weenies, and no, we're not making that up. Disney saw the problem immediately. Teeny Weenies didn't sound like a summer blockbuster, it sounded like a preschool cartoon, or an off-brand snack cracker. Executives knew older kids would roll their eyes, parents wouldn't take it seriously, and the film's groundbreaking effects would get buried under a title that undersold everything. So, the name changed and the whole movie's identity shifted with it. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids wasn't just a better title, it was the movie. 5 words told you the premise, the mistake, and the stakes. Even better, it sounded like a dad sheepishly confessing to his wife, instantly grounding wild sci-fi in a relatable family moment. Suddenly, this wasn't a gimmick, it was an adventure with actual heart, and because the title promised something specific, the movie had to deliver. That meant building a backyard that felt genuinely massive and filling it with dangers that made survival feel earned.
Nick, I've got 6 hours to get home, get big, and get to the mall.
One title swap turned a strange little concept into a cultural phenomenon and launched a franchise that proved sometimes the difference between forgotten and unforgettable really does come down to the name. Number 14, the title won an award for bad grammar. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids picked up an award it definitely didn't ask for. In 1989, Disney's family blockbuster reportedly earned the Dunce Cap Award from a grammar watchdog group for its title. Why? Because the verb to shrink follows an irregular past tense pattern. Shrink, shrank, shrunk.
Come on. Shrink.
Since Wayne Szalinski's confession describes something that already happened, the title technically should be Honey, I Shrank the Kids. Using shrunk there is grammatically like saying, Honey, I drunk the milk. Not great. Disney didn't care though, and honestly, good call. Shrunk sounds punchier, more natural, and stuck in your head a little bit more. That's exactly what a movie title should do. By the time the film became a smash hit, the error had turned into a branding signature. Every sequel kept the grammar consistent with the original, correctness be damned. The real kicker though is inside the movie, Wayne Szalinski speaks like a proper scientist.
If we can proportionally reduce the amount of empty space in any given object, we can thereby shrink the object.
The grammatical slip lives only in the title, just a frantic dad blurting out his miniature mishap. And let's be honest, when your kids are ant-sized and the background has become a death trap, verb conjugation is the last thing on your mind. Number 13, Diane Szalinski's hair color changes mid-movie. Diane couldn't keep a consistent hair color for 90 minutes, and it wasn't a makeup department goof. This was executive meddling in real time. Marcia Strassman, who played Diane, started filming with her naturally darker hair. Reportedly, 2 weeks into production, Jeffrey Katzenberg, then running Disney, decided she needed to be blonde. When the crew pushed back, pointing out they'd already shot a chunk of the movie, Katzenberg allegedly shrugged and said, "No one will notice."
Is that a chainsaw?
People noticed. Since the movie wasn't shot in sequence, Diane's hair ping-pongs between colors depending on the scene. Early indoor shots show her with darker hair. The outdoor search scenes and the climax, she's bright blonde. Flip between the kid surviving the backyard and the parents' frantic hunt, and once you notice it, you can't unsee it. By the time Honey, I Blew Up the Kid rolled around, Marcia kept the blonde, officially locking it in as Diane Szalinski's signature look. So next time you rewatch, keep an eye on Diane's hair. It's basically a scene-by-scene mood ring. Number 12, The neighborhood wasn't California, it was a painted backlot. The Zielinski and Thompson house looked like textbook American suburbia. Picket fences, trimmed lawns, sunny skies, the whole deal. Except none of it was real, and it wasn't even in the United States. That cozy neighborhood was actually built from scratch on a backlot at Churubusco Studios in Mexico City. Every house, sidewalk, and mailbox was constructed specifically for the film. Why Mexico? Well, simple math. Disney could hire bigger crews, build massive sets, and still come in under what a Los Angeles shoot would have cost. But here's where it gets clever. To make the street look like it stretched for blocks, the production used forced perspective. Houses further down were actually smaller scale models. Distant trees were carefully placed props, and that golden suburban sky? Before digital effects, artists hand-painted horizons and sunsets on giant panes of glass, then layered them into the live-action shots. The real magic was actually in the editing.
This is a lot better than those nature hikes Dad tracks.
Full-scale houses, scale models, and painted backdrops were stitched together so seamlessly that audiences never clocked they were looking at three completely different layers of the same street. A picture-perfect American neighborhood built in Mexico, held together with paint, perspective tricks, and movie wizardry. Number 11, Rick Moranis wasn't the first choice. It's hard to picture anyone other than Rick Moranis in those oversized glasses and lab coat, but the role of Wayne Szalinski was initially aimed at someone else. At the time, Chevy Chase was the king of the lovable but arrogant dad thanks to the National Lampoon's Vacation films. Unfortunately, he was tied up filming Christmas Vacation, leaving the door open for someone else. Enter John Candy, who was offered the part next. In one of Hollywood's sweetest gestures, Candy turned it down, not because he wasn't funny, but because he felt Moranis, his friend and fellow SCTV alum, was a better fit. Candy insisted Moranis had the perfect preoccupied scientist energy that would make the character believable.
Holy smokes. It's the laser.
Other names floated around like Martin Short, but the early scripts that were written for wackier comedians shifted once Moranis came aboard. His nerdy warmth and genuine love for his family transformed Wayne Szalinski from a potentially sarcastic, bumbling caricature into a sympathetic, grounded father. Moranis became the secret sauce of the film. His ability to play brilliant yet socially awkward characters made the danger the kids faced feel real and made audiences care. Without him, the story might have been a slapstick romp. With him, though, it became a family classic. Number 10, Disney turned it into a franchise, then watched it shrink. Disney shrunk some kids, then squeezed every dollar out of the concept for a decade, but the returns got smaller every time. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids hit theaters in June 1989 as a modest gamble. It walked away with $222 million worldwide, becoming Disney's highest-grossing live-action film at the time. Suddenly, Wayne Szalinski's Backyard Disaster wasn't a quirky one-off, it was a franchise. 3 years later, Disney flipped the formula, literally, with Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. This time, a toddler shot up to 112 feet tall and stomped through Las Vegas. Rick Moranis returned, the absurdity escalated, but the box office told a different story. Roughly half the original's returns.
I blew up the baby.
Critics pointed out it swapped the tight survival adventure for Godzilla-like spectacle, and the emotional stakes shrank even as the toddler grew. Then came the theme parks. In 1994, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience opened at Epcot, eventually spreading to Disneyland and Tokyo Disneyland. It was a full 4D assault. Giant dogs sneezed water onto guests, mice scurried across seats via hidden ticklers, and over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, kids could run wild in a playground with oversized blades of grass and an enormous leaky garden hose. You didn't just watch the Szalinskis anymore, you lived it. By 1997, the franchise had quietly downgraded. Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves skipped theaters entirely, straight to VHS. The sprawling backyard jungle got traded for sitcom-scale domestic chaos. That same year, the TV series launched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show, and it ran for 3 seasons, with Peter Scolari filling in for Moranis. It leaned on invention of the week plots instead of survival stakes. Was it watchable? Sure, but it was clearly the franchise folding in on itself. Even the revival attempts follow the pattern. Shrunk, a legacy sequel meant to bring back Moranis alongside Josh Gad, had been stuck in development limbo for years. The ambition's there, the momentum never quite shows up though. From a scrappy backyard adventure to a multi-platform empire to a slow fade, the Zielinski saga proved that sometimes the smallest ideas generate the biggest returns and then quietly shrink back down. Number 9. Stuart Gordon finally got to direct, a decade late and several budgets short. Stuart Gordon helped create one of Disney's biggest live-action hits of the 80s. He just never got to direct it. The guy behind Reanimator, the movie where a severed head does unspeakable things, co-developed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids from the ground up. He pitched it, shaped it, and watched it get greenlit. Then the stress of development knocked him sideways and Disney handed the director's chair to someone else. Joe Johnston made the movie, Johnston got the credit, and Johnston launched a career that led to The Rocketeer, Jumanji, and Captain America. Gordon went back to making cult horror, and the franchise kept growing without him with sequels, theme park rides, lunchboxes, a TV series, but then, 10 years later, Disney threw him a bone. When Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show, launched in 1997, Gordon was invited back. Not to run the show, not to shape the season or anything, but to direct a single episode. 1.
Comforting words, Fran. Who knows what might have happened if I had, for some irrational reason, decided to, say, disconnect you.
After a decade of watching his concept become a multimedia empire, he finally got to yell action on a set he helped imagine. It's the kind of Hollywood ending that's less triumphant return and more thanks for stopping by. But his name hit the credits. The circle technically closed, and somewhere in the vaults, there's one episode of a 90s TV show directed by a horror legend who never got to make the movie he started. Sometimes, that's as close to closure as Hollywood gives you. Number 8. Only one of the kid actors is still acting. 4 kids survived a killer backyard, and then the spotlight moved on like it always does. Of the main child actors from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, only one stuck around in Hollywood. Thomas Wilson Brown, who played Little Russ, carved out a steady career, popping up on Knots Landing, landing a role in Pearl Harbor, and eventually branching into producing and directing. Whenever a retrospective needs a talking head from the cast, he's the guy who answers the phone. Amy O'Neill, who played Amy Zielinski, took a hard left.
Did you get the machine to work?
Burned out on Hollywood and tired of roles that came with uncomfortable strings attached, she ditched scripts for stilts. Literally, she joined a performance troupe called Girls on Stilts and spent years touring the world as a circus-style artist. Acting became an occasional side gig. Jared Rushton, the kid who also starred in Big, traded child star credits for a quieter life with a guitar. He formed an indie rock and blues band called Deal by Dusk and mostly stayed out of the spotlight. No drama, no headlines, just music and a bit of privacy. And then there's Robert Oliveri, who played Nick Zielinski, the youngest of the bunch and arguably the heart of the film.
It's the equivalent of 3.2 miles. It's a long way.
After reprising the role in the sequel in Disney's 3D theme park attraction, he vanished. Left Hollywood in 1994, he moved to Florida, started a family, and hasn't looked back. No interviews, no reunions, and for fans, he's the ultimate where are they now mystery. 4 kids, 1 uncomfortable movie, and 4 completely different exits. Number 7, The Backyard, was a massive hand-built illusion with almost no CGI. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids hit theaters in 1989, 2 years before Terminator 2 melted our brains with liquid metal, 4 years before Jurassic Park made dinosaurs walk again. Digital effects weren't really an option yet, so the crew did it the hard way. Instead of shrinking the kids, they supersized everything around them. The set wasn't a few oversized props scattered around a soundstage, it was a sprawling 360-degree environment constructed at Churubusco Studios in Mexico City, and it turned a goofy premise into a genuine survival adventure. Every blade of grass, ranging from 12 to 40 feet tall, was handcrafted from polyurethane foam with internal skeletons to keep them upright. Morning dew were clear resin beads and misting sprayers. The blazing studio lights turned the whole place into a sauna, and the actors were basically doing cardio in a foam jungle for weeks. Everyday backyard junk got the mega treatment too. That Lego brick the kids slept in, hollowed out and reinforced to hold 4 child actors plus a camera crew.
What is it? One of my Legos.
The giant cream-filled cookie the kids munch on was foam, marshmallow fluff, and shaving cream, which apparently smelled horrific under the hot lights. Movie magic doesn't always smell like movie magic, to be honest with you, and the bee they flew on wasn't animation, it was a full-scale mechanical rig mounted on a motion-control gimbal, pitching and tilting so the actors could lurch around like they were actually airborne. The set wasn't just impressive, it was legitimately hazardous. The broom that nearly sweeps little Russ away had bristles made of thick plastic pipes. Mistimed and you're catching a bruise. The raindrops from the garden sprinkler, essentially water balloons and high-pressure hoses. Refreshing for a normal person, but terrifying at ant scale. Auntie, the ant, was a fully animatronic puppet requiring a dozen operators just to coordinate its legs, mandibles, and antennae. For the creature sequences like Auntie's showdown with the scorpion, the team used stop motion enhanced with go motion to add realistic blur. Everything got layered together with blue screen optical compositing, a painstaking process where one lighting mismatch could trash an entire shoot. Getting Rick Moranis and the tiny kids into the same frame meant old school in-camera trickery. The camera stayed locked while one half of the shot was filmed with normal-sized Moranis, then the film was rewound to capture the kids on their oversized set. Merge the two halves together and suddenly Dad and his ant-sized children share the same room. Lighting a set that massive was its own challenge. Cinematographer Hiro Narita draped an enormous silk over the entire lot to simulate soft, filtered sunlight. Smoke machines added haze and depth, disguising where the studio walls actually ended. 7 months of design and construction went into building this world, and when you watch the kids' faces shift from wonder to terror, that's not just good acting. They were genuinely lost in a 40-foot forest, reacting to something real, not a green screen placeholder. That tangible reality gives the film a weight that a lot of CGI just still can't match. If you're enjoying this trip through the backyard, hit subscribe for more deep dives into the movies and shows you grew up with. Drop a like so YouTube knows you survived the grass jungle too, and tell us in the comments what moment from this movie messed you up the most as a kid. Because if it was Auntie, yeah, same. Now let's get back into it with number 6. The animated opening was stacked with future legends. The dangers started before the movie even began, and so did the secret talent. Before the kids ever got shrunk on screen, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids hit you with an animated opening that felt like a Looney Tunes sequence on a caffeine bender. Tiny kids sprinting through a maze of office supplies, giant staplers snapping, pencil sharpeners whirring like death traps. It was chaos, and it told you exactly what kind of movie you were about to watch. But here's the part nobody talks about. The team behind that sequence was really ridiculous. Bill Kroyer directed it, one of the first animators to blend hand-drawn work with early computer-assisted effects. The sequence looked like classic cartoon panic, but underneath it was bleeding-edge tech that most studios still hadn't figured out yet. Oh, and the animators? One of them was Andrew Stanton, future director of WALL-E and Finding Nemo. Another was Eric Stefani, founder of No Doubt and Gwen Stefani's brother. Before Pixar changed cinema, these guys were drawing kids getting chased by rubber stamps. That frantic score would later cause legal trouble, but we'll get to that in a second. So before the first line of dialogue, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids had already delivered a technical milestone, a preview of 2 wildly different careers and a ticking legal time bomb, all in under 2 minutes. Not bad for a cartoon warm-up. Number 5, Auntie the Ant became a breakout character. The most gut-wrenching moment in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids had nothing to do with the lasers, gadgets, or the actual children, but a giant ant who just wanted to be helpful. When Auntie first showed up, every instinct screamed threat. Giant mandibles, twitchy antennae, the kind of creature that should have sent the kids running, but the filmmakers pulled a quiet trick. They gave him the soul of a golden retriever. Big curious eyes, gentle head tilts, cautious but friendly body language. The second the kids fed him a crumb of oatmeal cream pie, the tension melted away. He wasn't a monster anymore. He was a pet, and just like that, the audience was hooked. That connection worked because Auntie didn't just appear on screen, he performed. The puppet was a small engineering miracle operated by a team of puppeteers controlling everything from antenna twitches to subtle shifts in posture. Wide shots of him racing through the grass used stop motion. Even his sound design was deliberate with soft clicks and chirps instead of hisses and shrieks. Nothing about him felt scary. He felt loyal, protective, and somehow impossibly alive. Then came the scorpion fight, and for a lot of kids in 1989, this was their real first encounter with movie grief. Auntie didn't just lose the battle, he made a choice. He put himself between the kids and certain death, fought like hell for his tiny pack, and paid the price. Test audiences reportedly reacted harder to Auntie's death than to any threat facing the human characters. That emotional gut punch elevated the whole film.
It's gonna be okay.
What could have been a lightweight sci-fi romp suddenly carried real stakes. Auntie's legacy outlasted the credits. He became the face of the franchise, appearing in Disney parks attractions, inspiring themed playgrounds, and earning a spot alongside E.T. and Gizmo as one of the most beloved non-human sidekicks of the decade. And here's the kicker. While audiences were weeping, the set was an absolute disaster. The blue ant blood used during the scorpion scene mixed with dirt, foam, and sweat over days of filming, turning the ground into a slick, chemical-smelling mess. Pure chaos behind the camera, but pure heartbreak on screen. That's the magic of Auntie, a pile of wires, foam, and coordinated puppetry that somehow became the emotional core of an entire generation's movie-going childhood. And yeah, we're still not over it, okay? Number 4, the theme music sparked a legal dispute. Remember that frantic score from the animated opening? It came with baggage. That main theme, all scurrying rhythms and madcap energy, caught the attention of Raymond Scott's estate. The composition borrowed heavily from Scott's 1937 piece, Powerhouse, better known as the music Looney Tunes slapped over every assembly line and chaotic factory sequence for decades. The estate objected, and suddenly Disney and composer James Horner had a problem. Rather than let it escalate, Disney quietly settled. The exact terms stayed under wraps, but future releases of the film started crediting Raymond Scott, a not-so-subtle acknowledgement that the homage maybe leaned a little too hard on its source material. For Horner, this wasn't exactly out of character. The composer had a reputation in Hollywood for borrowing liberally, pulling from classical pieces and recycling his own motifs across different films. Some argued the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids score was meant as a loving nod to the mad scientist sound of old cartoons. Others felt the line between tribute and imitation got a little blurry. Either way, the music still works beautifully. It's a textbook example of Mickey Mousing, where every note matches every scamper, stumble, and mechanical whir of Wayne Szalinski's gadgets. That anxious, driving rhythm kept the background adventure buzzing with tension and fun, and honestly, the movie wouldn't hit the same without it. Number 3, the Cheerio scene was a nightmare to film. Little Nick Zielinski dangling over a bowl of milk looked like pure comedy, but it was actually a genuine ordeal for the kid playing him. That giant Oreo scene is one of the movie's most memorable gags, but behind the laughs, young Robert Oliveri was strapped to an oversized foam ring, suspended over a vat of murky liquid, clinging on for dear life. The milk wasn't straight from the dairy, it was made from chlorinated water, food thickener, and pigment. Under the blazing studio lights, that gunk could spoil fast, and dunking a kid into it repeatedly wasn't exactly a safety-first solution. The Cheerio itself didn't help. Built as a massive foam prop, reportedly the size of a tractor tire, it had a slippery surface that made holding on a constant struggle. One slip meant plunging into a pool of goo that was nearly impossible to swim through. And that giant utensil hovering over him? On screen, it looks like a spoon, but the actual prop was built closer to an oversized honey dipper. Rick Moranis handled it again decades later during a rare on-camera appearance for the Disney Plus series Prop Culture, where he revisited various pieces from the film. Moranis was filmed separately on a normal-sized set, and the timing had to sync perfectly to sell the illusion that Dad was about to accidentally eat his own son. Any mistimed movement and the composite shot would have looked less funny and more horrifying. The whole setup took a toll. A kid dangling from a giant foam ring, staring down an enormous spoon, hovering over a vat of thick mystery liquid, that's not exactly a relaxing Tuesday. The wide-eyed panic on Nick's face in that scene, not entirely acting. That was real tension, captured on film and dressed up as a punchline. Number 2, the original script had 5 kids and 1 didn't survive. The final movie has 4 kids fighting their way through the jungle. The original script, 5. Early drafts of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids included a 5th child, and that child didn't make it home. In Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna's darker version, the sprinkler scene wasn't just a close call, it was a full-on death scene. The sprinklers hit like a violent storm, and one of the children drowned in the chaos. No last-minute rescue, no CPR, just a body count in a Disney movie. The studio pulled back. 5 kids became 4, the drowning death got softened into Amy's near drowning, where Russ revives her and the audience exhales, and what was once a gut punch became a teachable moment about rescue breathing. But that original draft tells you everything about where this movie started. The horror guys weren't kidding around. They wanted real stakes, real consequences, and a backyard that could actually kill you. Disney said no, but the instinct survived, buried just under the surface of every moment where the kids feel genuinely in danger. The death scene got cut. The danger, however, didn't. Number 1, the movie was born from a horror mind and nearly fell apart before filming. One of the most wholesome family films of the 1980s came from the same creative circle that gave us exploding heads and reanimated corpses. After Reanimator, Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna didn't just pitch this movie, they built it from the ground up, and their early concept treated the backyard less like a playground and more like a survival zone. Tiny kids, real danger, giant insects that weren't cute mascots yet. Disney saw the hook immediately but knew the tone had to change.
What's a river doing in your yard?
It's not a river, dope. Could be a stream of dog pee and it'd look like a river to us.
Go swim it.
That balancing act nearly broke the project. During the pressure cooker phase of development, Brian Usna collapsed from exhaustion and was ordered by doctors to step away. With its creative engine suddenly offline and a risky, effects-heavy concept already stretching a very modest budget, the movie wobbled on the edge of collapse before a single frame was shot. That's when Disney made a decisive pivot. Joe Johnston, a visual effects veteran from Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, was brought in to steer the film forward in what would become his feature directing debut. Johnston didn't erase the danger baked into the concept, he reshaped it. The horror instincts were still there. Scorpions, shadows, genuine peril, but now they were filtered through warmth, humor, and a Spielbergian sense of wonder. You can feel that hybrid DNA all over the finished film. The backyard isn't cute, it is hostile. The threats feel real. The kids don't just wander, they survive. That edge didn't come from Disney polish, it came from a horror-born idea that refused to be completely sanded down. Gordon's fingerprints are everywhere, in the tension, the scale, and the moments that still scare kids just enough to make the victory matter. And when the movie became a massive hit, it validated the instinct that started it all. A family adventure works better when survival actually feels earned. And there you have it. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids wasn't just a childhood favorite, it was a technical gamble, a creative pressure cooker, and a film that pushed practical effects to their absolute limit, all to tell a story about 4 kids trying to cross a backyard and make it home alive. If you enjoyed this trip back to the backyard, subscribe for more weird facts and forgotten movie history, and stick around because next time we're cracking open another childhood favorite that was way more unhinged behind the scenes than you ever knew. Because sometimes the smallest movies have the wildest stories.